All right, YouTube, this Detroit's HP TV coming to you out of Detroit on this Wednesday morning. Let's talk about politics because they have took a change for the weird. Now, on the left, Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and a lot of other lefties have been using the term weird as they describe Trump and Vance. Now, it seems that that was a poor choice of words for the Democratic Party to use. Weird. And they've been using it to describe Trump and Vance, but after further study, let me ask you guys a question, and y'all can put ones in the chat. To be an Indian woman all of your life and to all of a sudden start saying you're black, doesn't that seem weird? To mandate tampons in the boys' bathroom, doesn't that seem weird? To support gender reassignment for children, doesn't that seem weird? To cackle as much as Kamala Harris cackles, doesn't that come off weird? I don't think that that was a good word for the Democratic Party to use as a chant. Weird, because let's take a look at some weird policies. Like, isn't it weird to be the border czar, never go to the border, and let 20 million people into the country and then say you are a success? That's weird. Isn't it weird for black people to be in support of an Indian woman claiming to be black when she's Indian? That seems a bit weird. But I think Tim Walz, the governor, her VP, is the weirdest. Let's look at this clip. I want to do a reaction to this video. And you guys tell me what you think. This for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for commentary and education. Let's dabble into the weirdness of it all.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
As weird and creepy as J.D. Vance.
A super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird. Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
Just plain weird.
That stuff is weird. They come across weird, and then they start being weird. Yeah, they're weird.
Being a really weird.
He's such a weirdo.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate are weird. Deeply and profoundly weird. They are weird.
These Republicans just being weird. It's just weird. It's really weird.
Republican weirdness goes even deeper.
He said a lot of things that are weird, a weird style that he brings, weird policies. Let's start with the weird thing, because it is a thing.
Just plain weird.
What was weird was his talking about Diet Mountain Dew. Who drinks Diet Mountain Dew?
Have you ever seen the guy laugh? That seems very weird to me that that an adult can go through 6.5 years of being in the public eye. If he has laughed, it's at someone, not with someone. That is weird behavior.
Weird and cultish.
These are weird people on the other side.
He kind of doubled down on his weird ideas.
I think weird is probably generous.
Simply weird. These guys are just plain weird. Vance as weird?
You know, as the campaign said, weird.
It really is just plain weird.
J.D. Vance, plain weird.
I mean, I don't know how else you could read it.
Weird. It is kind of weird.
We're not afraid of weird people.
$10 can help fund powerful ads to reach undecided voters nationwide.
End it there with Tim Walz in their parade of weird. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me. We have got a banger of an ad for you. You may have seen it if you watched my entire expose on Tim Walz, but Donald Trump was quick to the trigger and his whole team was right on it with an ad targeting specifically Tim Walz and his ridiculous, horrendous record. Wow, this is an awesome one. Tampon Tim, that's his new name. That's his new nickname. Way to go, Tampon.
Wow. Tampon Tim, cackling Kamala Harris and her running mate, Tampon Tim. Seems weird.
Tim, but I just wanted to play that weird montage because that's been the talking point. That's been the media mantra for the last week or so, ever since the last week and a half, ever since the Republican National Convention. And that's what they've been trying to drumbeat into the American public. And the reason for that, I don't know if they had a premonition or if they had some inside info that Kamala Harris was going to pick this ultra life loser as a VP candidate. But this guy is just full of shame and ridiculous record. Talk about weird. He is the last person to talk about weird. And that's why this ad from Donald Trump is just awesome. Let's get right into it.
What could be weirder than signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms? Or weirder than signing legislation allowing minors to receive sex change operations? Try electing the man who signed those bills Vice President of the United States. Enter Chief Weirdo Tim Walz. As governor of Minnesota, Walz supported legislation that endangers minors, hurts women, and puts radical ideology ahead of common sense. Now Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz, too weird, too radical.
I love it. The Trump team is all over this one. That is just right in their face. I love that they took the whole weird nonsense that the media has been trying to drumbeat.
And the strange part about it is, like, people like Joy Reid and Whoopi Goldberg and Boule Roland Martin and the people on the left, how could they ever start saying other people is weird? Like, is anything weirder than mandating tampons in the boys' bathroom? Or being the border czar and never visiting the border? Being Indian and saying you're black? Cackling for no unreason? Being unburdened by what is and what never was that could be burdened by it? Sounds, I don't know, I think they picked the wrong word.
Into people's heads and just flipped it right around. The ultimate good expression of the dipsy-do flipperoo. Really? You want to talk about weird? Let's talk about really weird. Not just using the word. We're not just going to use the word out there in the ether and say, J.D. Vance is weird. Always weird, always weird, always weird. No. We're actually going to demonstrate why Tim Walz is weird. Tampons in boys' bathrooms in high school? Are you kidding me? They signed that into law. That is a law in Minnesota. I wonder how the Muslim community likes that law. Gee, I don't know. But there might be, eventually the left will eat its own. To go on from there, sex change operations for minors. Now, Tim Walz signed this bill into law. When he signed this bill into law, they had a bunch of people up at the Capitol where they signed the bill. And one of them was this ridiculous family that is transitioning their 6-year-old. That's how demented, warped, stupid, and weird these people.
I don't know about him, but I would think it should be illegal to transition a 6-year-old. I would think that would be illegal. And the people who would support that, I mean, isn't that weird?
Tim Walz is the ultimate definition of weird. And not just funny weird, disgusting weird. That's who Tim Walz is. Wow. And Tim Walz is so many more things that go upon the weird scale, but even more the disgusting garbage person scale. That ad was just dope. What do you think? I would love to know from the comments. Leave me a comment right now. What do you think of that new ad? I hope that gets played ad nauseum. Trump's got a whole war chest full of money. I hope they use that to broadcast this ad everywhere. everywhere. Let people know who Tim Walz really is. And in addition to that, let's remember Tim Walz's record, shall we? Let's never forget the results of failed leadership, the results of real weird, the results of disgusting Tim Walz weird. Let's see those results firsthand, shall we? Just look at this. This is a war zone. This is Kyiv. This is Kharkiv in the Donbass region. This is anywhere in Ukraine. This is Gaza. No. Minneapolis 4 years ago. This is the result of failed leadership. This is the result of demonstrably disgusting weird. This is Tim Walz weird. It's Tim Walz leadership. MIA of the city burning. Not just MIA, but refusing National Guard service. President Trump. This man is an absolute disgrace. He's weird on a grand scale. He's Tampon Tim. He'll pass a law to put tampons in boys' bathrooms. Stop riots, destroying billions of dollars, destroying lives, killing people, injuring people. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. No, we don't want the National Guard, Mr. Trump. This man is absolutely dangerous. He must be kept away from the White House and from the VP residence at all costs. One last thing that we'll talk about with this is his ridiculous record in the military. Now, he's run around and touted the fact that he served, but there's a little bit of hair on that one. A little bit of hair. Let's check it out.
So, newly minted vice presidential pick Tim Walz, who's the governor of Minnesota, is being put on blast for stolen valor and leaving his unit hanging when they got the order to deploy to Iraq. He declined to deploy with them, okay? So this is from an article that came out in the West Central Tribune in 2018. This article was authored by people that served with Governor Tim Walz that were putting him on blast for basically stolen valor in leaving his unit hanging when they decided they were going to deploy to Iraq. Okay, I'm going to read you the first sentence of this. We, retired Command Sergeant Major of the Minnesota National Guard, feel it is our duty and responsibility to bring forth the truth as we know it concerning his service record. Now, I'm not going to get all into the weeds on this, but the most important part is this. All right. In early 2005, a warning order was issued to the 125th Field Artillery Battalion, in which Governor Walz was serving as their command sergeant major. Okay, the order was to prepare them to be mobilized for active duty and deployment to Iraq. When you are about to deploy, you generally have a couple of months' notice. Okay, because there's a lot of things that go into getting a unit ready to go to war. Now, on May 16, 2005, he quit, leaving the 125th Field Artillery Battalion and its soldiers hanging without its senior non-commissioned officer. His excuse was that he needed to retire in order to run for Congress. This is false. And again, these are the words of the Command Sergeant Major, retired, that put this together for the West Central Tribune. This came out in 2018.
So now you got to check it out from the actual people in his unit.
The public needs to know how pathetic his leadership was as a National Guardsman.
On a 150-year-old farm in Brewster, Tom Behrens hopes his tell-it-like-it-is style will finally get the attention he believes it deserves in Minnesota's race for governor. In a way, he's back again to wage a public war of words against Tim Walz.
He abandoned us. I mean, what the hell kind of leader does that? I mean, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung his hat up and quit.
We'll get to Behrens' new message for voters in a moment. But this all starts years earlier when Behrens says Walz's misleading statements about his military service first led him to come forward in the fall of 2018. So you try to get this message out, but Minnesota's largest newspaper checks it out, says it's 100% true, but yet refuses to print.
When I hung the phone up, I said, what the hell is this, North Korea?
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walz served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walz would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress. Tom Behrens was next in line for the position and was asked to take his place.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, if this guy quit, If I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that? If a company would say that we're going to deploy to Iraq or somewhere and you're going to be gone for whatever amount of time, and then a foreman just says, no, I'm not going. I mean, what does that say to the 500 people that work in that factory?
Behrens would go on to serve in Iraq on a nearly 2-year deployment as a command sergeant major. All while Walz began using that title as a congressman. Behrens says he first contacted Walz with his concerns, sending these letters to Washington. They all went unanswered. But then we fast forward to the election in 2018 in Minnesota, and you try at that time to get people's attention with this story and also with what seems to be a very misleading statement that he continued to make about his service.
It kind of just sat there. You know, when he was a congressman, he bragged that he was a command sergeant, retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and all this lie that he was telling. The state of Minnesota came out after 2018, after this was exposed, and they said, well, he can say that he served as a command sergeant major, but he can't say he's a retired one because he's not.
And that's what he was saying.
And he was saying that, and there was lots of public, lots of cards coming in the mail, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in.
A spokesperson for the Minnesota National Guard said Walz wasn't able to retire as a command sergeant major since he failed to complete coursework and requirements related to the rank. Verified documents show the Army corrected his service record. Walz was reduced in rank to an E8 Master Sergeant after retirement and his conditional promotion. Alpha News again asked Governor Walz if he's using the Command Sergeant Major rank on his campaign website for political gain this year. A spokesperson said this has been in the news before and pointed us to a past story where Walz said, quote, normally this type of partisan political attack only comes from one who's never worn a uniform.
Now, coming from someone who's worn a uniform, this is disgusting. The man is disgusting. Tim Walz is a disgusting garbage person of a candidate. There's no way we can elect him anywhere near the VP residence or anywhere near the seat of power. He's a failed leader. He abandoned his unit when they were deploying to Iraq, and he was MIA during the George Floyd riots. You saw the effects on Minneapolis. Minneapolis has never recovered from that nonsense. There are still whole areas of the city that are food deserts. They're veritable ghettos that used to be thriving with small businesses, small minority-owned businesses. They're all gone. They're all destroyed because of Tim Walz. Tim Walz is a failure. And it's appropriate that another failure, Kamala Harris, would pick him as her running mate. Wow. Tampon Tim, way to go. Guys, we got to share this message everywhere we go. He has got to become the boat anchor on this ticket that he needs to be. Please help me out, Courageous Army. Get this message out to everybody that you know, even people you don't know. Find some people. Tell them what a disgusting life loser this guy is for so many reasons. Go to the fact that he's demonstrably weird based on his policies. Tampons in boys' bathrooms? Sex changes for minors? No. Leaving his unit when they were about to ready to deploy for Iraq, but still trying to claim that he's a command sergeant major? No. And then look at what he did to Minneapolis. The man is a leadership failure. He's an example of leadership failure. Let's make sure that he gets nowhere near the Oval Office, please. Now, if you could, smash that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications. If you haven't already, please leave a comment. Let us know how we're doing.
Wow. That's very,
I can imagine what can be and be
again, as I stated before, I think the Democrats' push of the word weird will ultimately backfire. And I'm going to end this video on this note.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been. There are those who are unable to see what can be. But there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been. Remember Venn diagrams, those 3 circles? Right. And then let's just see where they overlap. You will not be surprised because I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those 3 circles, how they overlap? I love Venn diagrams. So I just do. Whenever you're dealing with conflict, pull out a Venn diagram, right? And so, you know, the 3 circles. Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
Let me unburden you with the weirdness. This is Detroit's HPTV, signing to you out of Detroit. Salute to our patriots. Keep your head on a swivel. Keep watch for the weirdness to come. Peace. Like, share, and subscribe.